Welcome to a short video where we will explain how to play the Sleep Tight card game. In this short tutorial, we'll go through the gameplay basics and play a couple of turns which will help you dive straight into the game. Sleep Tight is a game where a group of kids runs from the notorious Sandman who enter their dreams, aiming to steal their souls and trap them in an eternal nightmare. There are a couple of ways for the kids to escape the nightmare. They cooperate to defeat Sandman, they can try to wake up early, or they can take the dark path by delivering the other kids to Sandman and in turn get rewarded with waking up. Sleep Tight uses three kinds of cards. These are action cards representing actions every player can use during the game: hiding, running, double-crossing other players, mustering the courage, and attacking Sandman. The second type of cards are Dreamscape Cards, which every player draws every turn and puts in front of them. They represent the current dream of the kid, the nightmarish forest where they are running from Sandman and his minions, or the hot and terrifying hell, for instance. The last type of card is the Sandman Card, and it represents Sandman's health pool, his action during that turn, and in which dream is his reach currently stronger. He reaches throughout every dream, but every turn he dominates in one dreamscape. This is a standard action card a player can use during their action. There are four types of action cards which represent what type of action a kid does. They can be Run, when a kid runs away from the danger, Sandman and his minions. Collect, which represents a kid collecting fragments of his soul lost during a nightmare and encounters with Sandman. Attack, when a kid musters up the courage to confront Sandman and try to weaken him. Hide, when a kid tries to hide from Sandman, his minions, and even other kids who try to deliver him to Sandman. Let's take a look at the action card symbols. This card section represents what type of card this is. In this case, this is a hide card, used to hide or put other kids in trouble. This section represents how many soul fragments a player needs to have in their pool to use the action. This signifies the card effect. In this case, Sandman's red face represents the damage, and the arrow represents damage transferring to the player on your right side. Every turn, players draw a Dreamscape card from the top of the deck, putting it face up in front of them. The card represents the location of the dream, number of soul fragments found, and the strength of Sandman's influence over the dream. This is a game of cat and mouse. Sandman reaches every dream, but can't focus on all dreams at once, and that gives players the opportunity to defeat him. There are 5 types of dreamscapes embodying common nightmares. Darkness, representing being lost in a nightmare, breathing heavily, trying to escape from the darkness. Cold, representing the cold touch of fear in a nightmare. Shadow, or the reappearance of familiar faces and frightening locations. Limbo, or the place in between Sandman can barely reach. Desolation, representing the world in ruins and deep fears of destruction. Dreamscape card has 3 sections describing the aspect of the card. This section describes the location. In this case, this is a cold type of nightmare. You're materialized in the nightmare where everything around you is cold, empty, and lonely. This represents the number of your soul fragments you can find in this location. Will you succeed in gathering all of the soul fragments you lost when you got pulled into the nightmares? Or will Sandman succeed in stealing all of them? This represents the penalty of this location. In this dream, all collect action cards are twice as expensive to use. The Sandman card describes the type of attack Sandman and his minions use against the kids. Sandman comes in various shapes, feeds on fear, and tries to steal the rest of the souls belonging to kids. In this example, the symbol represents the dreamscapes where Sandman's influence is the strongest. If not hidden or protected by their actions, all kids in these types of dreamscapes lose 2 soul fragments, and the kids in other dreamscapes lose 1. This is a preview of the game setup for 2 players. Every player draws 7 action cards and gets 3 soul fragment tokens. Cards in Sleep Tight are marked with symbols. That way, players can quickly understand what the card does and how it can be used. The rulebook has the explanation of the symbols and their examples. This card deals 2 points of damage to Sandman and his minions. This symbol means that when you use this card, other kids can't do anything to you that turn. Arrow to the left means the card affects the player to the left, and 2 soul fragment symbols mean that you take that many tokens from that player. This card means you damage Sandman and his minions for a whopping 3 points of damage. This deals only 1 point of damage. This is a special card used to find out if one of the kids is a Sandman's minion and works against all of you. The card with Sandman or kid symbol in the shield means you can save one soul token from another kid or Sandman in this turn. Of course, if they both attack you, you have to choose who you will defend it from. There are 40 action cards which combine 20 kinds of symbols with explanations for all of them in the rulebook. The symbols are combined intuitively and you can learn the entire game in less than 10 minutes. Before the game begins, player has to choose 4 cards to start the game with, returning other 3 to the deck and shuffling it. At the beginning of the turn, players draw a Dreamscape card which describes their current nightmare. In the first turn, players can't collect any soul fragments. Shadow symbol shows the location of the nightmare is in a shadowy castle or a similar shadow place. These 2 soul fragments can be collected in the first turn. Down here is the attack ×2 symbol, which means every attack action card is twice as expensive to use. Players choose the action card and put it face down. After everybody puts their action card on the table, the cards are turned face up at the same time and the first Sandman card is drawn. This card shows us Sandman's minion, a clown with really bad intentions who, according to the card, lives in cold dreamscapes. Both kids are currently in the shadow dreamscapes, so they lose only 1 soul fragment. If any of them were in the cold dreamscape, they would lose 2 soul fragments. This card means no one can affect the player this turn, while this card means stealing the 2 soul fragments from the player on the left. The first card nullifies the second and stops the double-crossing action. This turn, every player loses 1 soul fragment to the clown, since they didn't protect themselves from Sandman. In this dreamscape, the kid is in hell, finds 2 soul fragments, and the eye symbol means all the hide action cards' costs are doubled. Every player draws 1 action card for this turn. Players can burn as many action cards they have to receive the same number of soul fragment tokens to their pile, and these cards go to the discard pile. Player 1 decides to burn 1 action card, getting 1 token in return. Player 1 now has 5 soul fragments and can use 2 action cards at the same time because their total cost equals the number of tokens in their pool. Remember, tokens aren't spent with actions. This card damages Sandman's minion for 2 points, in this case a very scary bear, while this card means player 1 takes any card they want from player 2 at the end of the turn. Player 2 decides to attack Sandman this turn, dealing 1 damage point. This card represents Sandman's minion hunting in Darkness and Desolation dreamscapes. Players in other dreamscapes lose 1 token. While player 1 is in 1 such dreamscape and loses 2 soul fragment tokens. Next 3 Sandman cards are eliminated. Sandman's deck is both his actions and his health pool. Used action cards go to the discard pile. Player 2 shows his hand to player 1, who chooses the card, called Wake Up. When a player succeeds in playing this card, they wake up from the nightmare, triumphing over Sandman. To play this card, a player must have all of their 10 soul fragments back. As we can see, that's not always easy, but with a little luck and skill, you can get in position to use it after a couple of turns. A new turn begins and every player draws a Dreamscape card, 1 action card, and takes the number of soul fragment tokens found in a nightmare. Sandman's minion still attacks players, hunting through Shadow and Darkness dreamscapes. Player 2 is in the Darkness dreamscape and will lose 2 tokens, while player 1 loses only 1 unless they use the action which will prevent it or reimburse soul fragments. Players choose and reveal their cards. Player 1 decided to attack Sandman's minion, reducing him for 3 points. Additional soul fragment symbol means they found another soul fragment during the action. Player 2 is taking revenge for the stolen card against player 1, but this combination of symbols means that player 1 chooses which card will be taken. Player 1 decides to give the special card which uncovers who among kids is Sandman's minion. That's a special card, but player 1 decides is redundant for his tactics, hoping to gather 10 tokens and use Wake Up card. Player 1 lost 1 token because of Sandman's minion, but immediately regains 1 back because of the soul fragment found during the action. Player 2 is less lucky, since he lost 2 tokens to Sandman's minion, which puts him in a lousy situation. The player took 1 action card, but the choice is somewhat limited with only 2 cards in hand, 1 being Wake Up card with a demanding price. Player 1 decides to forego taking the token found on Dreamscape location, taking another action card instead. This move can be used at the start of the turn to expand the hand. Player 2 does the same, taking 1 token and 1 card instead of 2 tokens, and now has more cards to use. The game goes on until one player can use the wake-up card, until they defeat Sandman together, until Sandman consumes all of their soul fragments, killing them in the process, or until all of the Dreamscape card deck is used and the dream collapses. Thank you for watching the explanation video. Dream on, sleep tight, and don't let Sandman bite.